Hi, I'm Tracy Van Buren of I Am LeBrand, and I'm excited to have my friend Brian Richards, who is the coordinator. Go ahead.
I'm the coordinator for the Carolinas chapter of the National Diversity Council. We do two basic things. We work with companies to improve their diversity and inclusion efforts to make them more than a window treatment, to actually affect both people and bottom lines. And then the second thing we do, which I think is a little bit more what we're going to talk about today, is we plan events for the community. We find folks in a local area to say, hey, here's what we think our area needs, and we give them the tools and the funding and the backdrop to be able to make it happen and make it a success, and work with people who can turn it into a really high quality training.
Now keep in mind, even though we are talking about the community, Brian is the coordinator for both North and South Carolina. So if you're in the surrounding areas, be sure to take a look at the website, which is
ndccarolinas.org. And so it's ndccarolinas.org.
Got it? Okay. So we're going to talk about the next event. And that is held June
19th at UNC Charlotte's main campus. It's in the Cone Center. It's from 9 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. It's called the LGBT and Allies Diversity Summit. You want me to start in on?
Well, tell our viewers how they can sign up or get tickets. What is the fee?
Oh yeah, it's free to students. It's also free to anyone who's experiencing financial hardship. So if you email info@ndccarolinas.org as a student, as one of our corporate partner members, or as someone who's experiencing some hardship, just RSVP to info@ndccarolinas.org. Otherwise, you can go to NDC Carolinas, and in the right-hand corner, you'll see LGBT and Allies Diversity Summit. Just click on that, then you'll be taken to the website with all the text, and then at the bottom is the registration link.
Simple, easy breezy. So definitely we want people to get tickets, but if you're a student or if you're experiencing any hardship financially, because there are a lot of us out there, definitely take advantage of this so that you can be included in this and also learn about other opportunities and events that the NDC has. Talk to us a little bit more about what to expect when we attend this event, because I'll be there.
It's really kind of two events in one. One piece is called What Works in the Workplace, and we're starting out, and this is going to be a pretty solid overview of kind of what LGBT initiatives mean and where we are in North Carolina and how we can, and kind of a lot of best practices for how to make those work in the workplace.
Okay.
Starts out with like a nice overview of kind of here's what everything is. Then the Human Rights Campaign is going to talk about what are some really good practices and some policies to have in place, as well as sort of where did North Carolina versus nationally the laws stand, just so you're kind of aware of that. Then we'll have folks talk to you about how to start ERGs and team member networks and all of those from kind of a grassroots. Here's how to actually get the culture engaged if you don't have the title. And then we'll talk from an HR standpoint about kind of what's changed over the past 20 years and what laws and policies do you need to know about. And then we'll finish it off with kind of a best practice that keeps everything or puts everything back together with plenty of time for Q&A throughout. Then the second piece of that.
Wait, let's stop here on this part, because what I'm hearing as I hear you speak about that, this isn't just for, even though we name students and persons that want, or individuals I should say, that would want to attend that are financially hard pressed. I would definitely encourage small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and or HR professionals to attend so that you can get the knowledge, make some contacts, and definitely be able to speak to the way our world is changing, and to be that much more inclusive, to make sure that you know your rights sitting on both sides of the table. And this is a great opportunity to get that information firsthand. Now, a little bit more about the second part.
You mind if I backtrack for a second?
Sure.
The cost for that one is $49. And beyond that, I agree. It's small business owners, folks working in medium-sized corporations, but even people who someday want to be employee resource group leaders or champion specific affinity groups at their organization. It's great for them. It's great for pretty much anyone in HR from bottom to top. It's also great for upper level leaders who would like to know what kinds of changes they could make to their organization. And just anyone who wants to know more about ERGs, because it is focused on LGBT, but it's largely focused on kind of what are policies that attract people and retain people who are pretty diverse. It's a lot of this is applicable to a lot of groups,
right?
Not just LGBT. So, the community piece?
Yeah, yes, let's talk about the community.
This one's pretty neat too. This is all, and the community piece is all driven by people in the community. We didn't say, hey Charlotte, here's what you need to learn about community-wise. We talked to the local leaders and said, what do you think, if you had only these many hours to plan, what topics would you cover? what would you go in depth on? And what we decided on is a trans asterisk, which is like everyone's familiar with transgender, you know, it's,
Right.
but it's going to talk a lot more about how that's a whole spectrum of folks, and how there's a lot of people that kind of fall somewhere between. Like we were talking about certain kids and relatives and such, you know, both liking to have the jewelry and the makeup, but also liking to have the trucks.
Right.
And kind of talking about how that's sort of where we see the world shaping and shifting. Then we have some panel discussions. One's going to talk about the diversity within the gay community, being gay male community, because I think we can look at that, and there are a lot of outspoken people out there.
Right.
And that's a lot of who you see and everything, but it really runs a big spectrum in terms of what their gender expression is, age, religious beliefs, you know, and a lot of these different pieces can really affect just what it means to be gay and how people see themselves, because some people see it as a huge piece of their personality in life, some people see it as a very small and significant one. And really just kind of being able to talk to folks who have a lot of different opinions and perspectives, and being able to ask them questions. Then I'll be doing one of the sessions on multiplicity theory, which talks about how we can't really understand little pieces of our identity in isolation. You know, for example, like to be a black woman. There's a long history of people saying that, you know, you could boil down, this is what it means to be a woman, and you could boil down, this is what it means to be black, and you kind of squish them together. But there's it's a lot more productive to think about it in terms of how those two traits kind of change each other, and how age, how hair color, how all of these other factors that we get into.
Okay, I gotta go there. So let me see if I get this right. You're going to be speaking about being a black woman with hair color. I can't wait to hear that.
I'm going to speak about how people understand their identity. Well, no, because it's more like what multiplicity theory goes with is like, you know, you hear a lot of people, I just gave that as an example because you're standing next to me. But no one really wants to know what it's like to be a white man. Really what it's more is to kind of understand how we look at each other in complex terms. It's not just, you know, you got the cliched example of, you know, black guy driving home gets pulled over, white guy driving home didn't get pulled over. Well, let's also stop and think for a second about how maybe the black guy's age had a factor, how the clothing, how the kind of car, how all of these different factors created this idea in the police officer's mind of someone that should get pulled over. Because it probably wasn't just that he was black, that was probably a big piece of it, but there were probably a lot of other factors that factored into that split-second instant decision that we all always make the first second we meet somebody.
Interesting. So in this community event, it sounds like you're needed at the table. You're needed in this discussion to take part, to educate, to be educated, and to walk away with dialogue that we will continue.
Absolutely. And that's the point of it. I mean, the community session is really just a big circle of chairs.
Okay.
Where you can't actually tell when you first sit down who's a panelist and who's part of the audience. Because we really want it to be a flowing, organic discussion. And we have, we got discussion questions planned out and all of that, but really at the end of the day, if people in the audience want to stop and ask a question partway through, or they have something that's been burning in their minds for a while, or they want to submit a question to the speakers, the little breaks beforehand, that's absolutely awesome. We really want this to be an ongoing, organic conversation, and we just want to serve as a forum to be able to do it. And actually the next session after the one I'm doing is actually on race and sexuality. How those two factors intersect and how persons of color kind of can get a very different experience than what we usually hear about in the media being more the white gay experience or white LGBT experience. So talking about how that has a big impact, and then it finishes off with a local counselor talking about how can we all become allies. She does a lot of kind of therapy with different folks around a lot of different sexuality focused topics. So we're not going to be talking about how can you just be an ally to the gay community if you're straight. How can you be a straight ally or how can you be a gay ally to the lesbian community? How can you be an ally to the trans community? How can we all be allies to each other and help empower? And what are the actual physical behaviors that make a difference? Because if you ask people, there's a lot of research that says if you ask people are they an ally, about 80% of Americans today, straight Americans, will say I'm an ally to the LGBT community. But if you actually ask them, what do you do? And make them fill out a checklist of behaviors. Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? It drops down to about 7% of people that actually do anything.
Well, and while you were talking, I'm thinking about the audience because my mind is always on community and branding. This isn't, as you suggested, this isn't just for those that identify with LGBT or any of those. This is for those service providers that work with children, because what I'm seeing is there are a lot of young people that are they struggle with identity anyway. And then to have, this other piece of it is a big thing. So being able to talk to that and understand and or have resources, because you are as valuable as the resources that you can provide. I think it's a really important part to be a part of.
I totally agree, but also bring the grandparent who's having a hard time with this. Don't just bring people who are LGBT or who are already really, really engaged for this. That's great for them. We want them to. And the LGBT community can be siloed. So if you are LGBT, let's learn about the other letters in that alphabet besides the one that you have. But no, I mean, as long as the grandma who's having a hard time, because there are a lot of people out there who don't know how to be allies or who have become a little bit more accepting of this kind of stuff, but they still struggle with it. I mean, we got to realize there is an opposition, and they're not bad people. They're people we eventually want on our side. So this is an opportunity for them to come and ask honest, open questions in a safe space and get real answers from real people who identify that way and who have been through it and who are confident in who they are now. I mean, if you're let's say you're an elderly person who's very religious and you just have a hard time with this, you're willing to come and be respectful to the speakers, but you do have some real questions that aren't necessarily easy to answer, come and ask them, please.
Right.
This isn't just for people who are already there. This is to help people, and not to brainwash you, but to give you an opportunity to hear from people themselves who live, breathe, work in Charlotte.
I'm excited. Give us that date one more time.
June 19th. It's at the Cone Center, UNC Charlotte. It's 9 o'clock in the morning until 4:30. The workplace sessions kind of build. You want to get there for the entire thing in the workplace. The community sessions are all kind of free-fitting. So even if you can only come on your lunch break, even if you can only come at the end of the day for just one or two of them, we'd love to have you for that too. But we'd love to have you for the whole time.
And for more events, because your community does a lot of work throughout the community throughout the year. Please stay tuned to that, and because we do work closely together, I'll definitely be posting things on all of my social media platforms. You can find me at I am Van B or I am LeBran, and that email address for those who are interested again is
info@NDC Carolinas, or you can email me directly, brian.richards@nationaldiversitycouncil.org. You can go online. We've got a Generational Diversity Summit on June 24th in the Triangle. It's our first Triangle event, brand new event up there. The next Charlotte one's going to be the Veterans Summit, or Veterans Diversity Summit in early September, working with recruiters to figure out how to find and then retain veterans, and also working with veterans to figure out how to more effectively apply for jobs and find them and interview skills and things like that too.
Looking forward to it. Until then, bye-bye.